Have you ever stopped to consider that every moment of your life, every joy, every struggle, every seemingly random event, is intricately woven into a divine plan far greater than you can imagine? Nothing in your life happens by chance. Every detail, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, is part of a grand design orchestrated by a loving and all-knowing God. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you found yourself wondering why certain things happen in your life? Perhaps you faced challenges that felt insurmountable, moments when you felt utterly lost, or seasons when it seemed like the world was against you. In those moments, it's natural to ask, why is this happening to me? Does God even see what I'm going through? Let me assure you of this profound truth. God sees you. God knows you. And He has a perfect plan for your life. Every detail, your joys, your sorrows, your triumphs, and your trials, is part of a larger purpose that you may not fully understand in the moment. What if I told you that even in your darkest hours, God is working behind the scenes, aligning every piece of your life for something far greater than you could ever imagine? His plan is not only flawless but also filled with love, wisdom, and care for you. Before we dive deeper, I want to ask you something. Do you trust God? If your answer is yes, I encourage you to comment below, "I trust you, God." And if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you never miss out on the encouragement and inspiration we share in every video. Now, let's explore the beauty of God's perfect plan for your life. Imagine placing your trust in someone who is incapable of error, someone who sees the beginning, the middle, and the end of every situation, and who is constantly working for your good. This is who God is. He is infallible. He does not make mistakes. He never errs. Even when life feels chaotic and out of control, God is orchestrating every detail with precision and purpose. A powerful example of this truth is found in the story of Joseph, which we read about in the book of Genesis. Joseph's life was far from easy. He was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, and imprisoned for years. From a human perspective, it seemed like one disaster after another. Joseph could have easily questioned God's plan, wondering why he had to endure so much suffering. But God had not forgotten Joseph. In fact, He was using every trial to prepare Joseph for a greater purpose, to save an entire nation from famine. Joseph's story reminds us that even when we can't see the bigger picture, God is working behind the scenes. What looks like a setback to us is often a setup for something greater. When Joseph finally rose to power in Egypt, he was able to look back and see how God had used every hardship for good. He told his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50 verse 20. This is the beauty of God's plan. He can take even the most painful moments of our lives and turn them into something extraordinary. Let's be honest, life can be hard. There are moments when the weight of our struggles feels unbearable, and we're tempted to believe that God has abandoned us. But the truth is, your struggles are not meaningless. They are part of a divine process designed to shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you for the future God has in store. Consider the process of refining gold. To purify gold, it must be subjected to intense heat. The impurities rise to the surface, and the refiner schemes them off, leaving behind pure, radiant gold. In the same way, God allows us to go through trials to refine our character, purify our hearts, and draw us closer to Him. The Apostle Peter wrote, "These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold." Your struggles are not a sign of God's absence. They are evidence of His presence. He is using every challenge to mold you into the person He created you to be. So when you find yourself in the midst of a trial, remember that God is with you. He is refining you, preparing you, and working all things together for your good. One of the hardest things to accept in life is waiting. We live in a fast-paced world where we want everything instantly, answers, solutions, breakthroughs. But God's timing is not our timing. He sees the bigger picture, and He knows exactly when to act. Take the story of Abraham and Sarah, for example. God promised them a son, but years passed without the promise being fulfilled. In their impatience, they tried to take matters into their own hands, which only led to more complications. But when the time was right, God fulfilled his promise, and Isaac was born. This story teaches us an important lesson. God's delays are not God's denials. He is never late, and his timing is always perfect. If you're in a season of waiting, don't lose heart. Trust that God is working behind the scenes, preparing everything for the right moment. His plans for you are worth waiting for. One of the most comforting truths about God's plan is that he is always with you. You are never alone in your journey. No matter how difficult your circumstances may be, God is by your side, guiding you, strengthening you, and comforting you. The psalmist David, who faced countless trials throughout his life, wrote, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me." David's confidence came from knowing that God was with him, even in the darkest moments. The same is true for you. No matter what you're facing, God is with you every step of the way. Finally, I want to remind you that your life has a greater purpose. You are not here by accident. God created you with a unique plan in mind, and he has equipped you with everything you need to fulfill that plan. Ephesians 2 verse 10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Your life is a masterpiece in progress. Every experience, every relationship, every challenge is part of the process. God is using it all to shape you into the person he created you to be and to fulfill the purpose he has for your life. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought: God's plan for your life is perfect. It may not always feel that way, especially when you're in the midst of a trial, but you can trust that he is working all things together for your good. So if you're facing a difficult season, don't lose hope. Hold on to the promise that God is with you, and he is working behind the scenes to bring about something beautiful. If you believe in God's perfect plan for your life, I encourage you to comment below, "I trust you, God." And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you can continue to receive encouragement and inspiration. Remember, no matter what you're going through, God sees you, he knows you, and he has a perfect plan for your life. Trust him, and watch as he unfolds his purpose for you in ways you could never imagine. Have you ever faced a setback that left you wondering why things didn't go as planned? Maybe you prayed for an opportunity that never came or faced a closed door just when you thought you had the perfect solution. It's easy to feel frustrated, but here's the truth. God is never caught by surprise. The story of Joseph in the Bible is a perfect example. He endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment, yet God was working behind the scenes for a greater purpose. In Genesis 50:20, Joseph tells his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's hardships weren't pointless. They were stepping stones to his destiny. We often struggle to understand why things happen the way they do, but Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts." What feels like a delay, disappointment, or detour might actually be God redirecting you to something greater. Just as Joseph's suffering positioned him to save countless lives during a famine, your current struggles could be shaping you for a future blessing. Life's difficulties can feel random, but the Bible assures us that everything has a purpose. In Romans 8:28, we read, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." This means that all things, not just the good ones, are being woven into God's perfect plan. Every challenge, delay, and hardship is being used to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for what's ahead. Consider David before he became king. He faced giants, fled for his life, and lived in caves. Yet every trial was training for his destiny. In the same way, God is using your struggles to strengthen you for something greater. Nobody likes going through trials, but God never wastes pain. Think of Job, who lost everything, his family, wealth, and health, yet still declared in Job 1:21, The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Because he remained faithful, God restored him abundantly. Similarly, Paul endured shipwrecks, beatings, and imprisonment. Yet he wrote in * 2 Corinthians 12:9, *, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." His hardships weren't punishments, they were opportunities for God's strength to be revealed. Like gold refined in fire, challenges purify us, build resilience, and deepen our faith. If you're facing a difficult season right now, * hold on. God is not done with your story, *. Have you ever tried to figure out what God is doing, only to feel more confused? That's because God sees the full picture while we only see a small part. Proverbs 3:5-6 encourages us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." The Israelites struggled with this in the wilderness. They didn't understand why they faced hunger and hardship, yet God provided for them daily, manna from heaven, water from a rock, and a guiding pillar of fire. He knew where he was leading them, even when they didn't. You may feel lost right now, but God has already gone before you. He has prepared the way. Everything in your life, both the joys and the struggles, is part of a bigger story. God doesn't waste anything. Joseph's suffering positioned him to save nations. Nick Vujicic, born without arms and legs, once struggled with depression. But today, he's a global speaker, inspiring millions to trust in God's purpose. In Isaiah 55:8-9, God reminds us, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." We may not understand why things happen, but we can trust that God is orchestrating something far greater than we can imagine. When life feels chaotic, remember, God never loses control. He is sovereign over every detail of our lives. No hardship, delay, or closed door is beyond his authority. If he allows it, he will use it. Look at Joseph. If he had resisted God's plan or tried to control his own destiny, he would have missed the incredible future God had for him. Instead, he trusted God's timing and saw his trials turn into triumph. We're reminded in Proverbs, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Surrendering control to God isn't always easy, but when we let him lead, we find true peace. If you're facing challenges today, hold on to faith. God is not punishing you, he is preparing you. One day, you'll look back and see how every delay, every hardship, and every closed door was leading you to something greater. What feels like a setback is actually a setup for something amazing. So trust him. Even when you can't see the full picture, God is working all things together for your good. Life often unfolds in ways we don't expect, and challenges can shake our confidence. But in those moments of uncertainty, one truth remains unshaken: God is in control. His plans are never random, and his timing is always perfect. Even when we struggle to understand the purpose behind our struggles, we can rest in the knowledge that he is leading us towards something greater. Surrendering to God's sovereignty doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up in the face of hardship. Instead, it means walking forward with faith, knowing that we don't have to figure everything out on our own. When we trust him, we find strength beyond our own limits, courage beyond our fears, and peace that isn't dependent on our circumstances. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord completely and not to rely on our own understanding. When we acknowledge him in all we do, he will direct our path. Too often, we carry unnecessary burdens, worrying about the future, fearing the unknown, and striving to control things beyond our power. But real freedom comes when we let go and place everything in God's hands. Instead of resisting his plans, we can embrace them with confidence, knowing that he is always working behind the scenes for our good. Even in the darkest valleys, he is present, guiding us, shaping us, and preparing us for the blessings ahead. This journey of faith isn't about having all the answers, it's about trusting the one who does. God never makes mistakes, and he never abandons his children. When we shift our perspective and see difficulties as part of his divine process, we begin to understand that every trial has a purpose. Romans 12:2 reminds us that God's will is always good, pleasing, and perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. So, if you're facing uncertainty today, hold on to hope. God's plan is unfolding in ways you may not yet see, but in time, you'll realize that every moment, both the struggles and the victories, were leading you exactly where you needed to be. His control over your life isn't a restriction, it's the greatest assurance you could ever have. Walk in faith, knowing that you are held by a God who never fails. Life has a funny way of unfolding, doesn't it? What feels like a setback or a closed door might just be the very thing that leads us to something far greater than we could have planned for ourselves. Sometimes, the twists and turns we face are not random at all. They're part of a bigger picture, a divine blueprint designed with love and purpose. Even when we can't see the full picture, we can trust that every moment, every challenge, and every surprise is woven into a plan that's far beyond our understanding. Think about it. Have there been moments in your life when things didn't go as you hoped, only to realize later that they led you to something better? Maybe it was a missed opportunity that opened the door to something more meaningful, or a difficult season that taught you strength and resilience. Those are the moments when God's hand is most visible, when hindsight reveals His fingerprints all over your story. Take a moment to reflect. Where have you seen His guidance in your life? When have you felt His presence in the midst of uncertainty? Even in the chaos, He's there, working behind the scenes, turning what seems like a mess into a masterpiece. So here's my challenge to you. Let go of the need to control everything. Surrender your fears, your doubts, and your worries to the one who holds the universe together. Trust that He knows exactly where you are, what you need, and where you're headed. Even when the path feels unclear, His plan for you is perfect, purposeful, and filled with hope. And here's the best part. When you release the weight of trying to figure it all out on your own, you'll find a peace that surpasses understanding. Not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because you know the one who does. So take a deep breath, lean into His promises, and watch how He turns your trials into triumphs. After all, the best stories are the ones where the hero doesn't give up, and with God, you're always the hero of your story.